All right, I think this thing is on. Hello, everybody. Good to be here today. Haven't talked with you in a while. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure I'm talking to you right now because there's nobody actually in the stream. So if you're watching this afterwards, thank you. But today I just wanted to get on stream and hang out a little bit and just kind of try to get back into the groove here after a pretty wild week here in the state of Texas. Hello everybody, thank you for coming to the stream today as it fills up. Notifications popping in. Hope you're all doing well. I know that you've been waiting for the off season. It's been pushed back once again. So much for escaping the snow. Yeah, I feel like there was some false advertisement or something. Like, wait a minute here. I thought I was leaving that behind. But yeah, pretty wild week. You know, the weather is what it is. It's gonna happen, but never really seen like the toll, like a snowstorm of that caliber having the damage that it did because of just lack of preparation with the electric grid and people losing both power and water and just the mess that creates in a frozen environment. Oh, some people had, you know, just unbelievably, I didn't know how to put it into words. I did not have it as bad as a lot of people did, but for so many people, this was just the worst week. I'm doing well though. I'm doing okay. Best landing spot for Deshaun. Missed you, Kane. Colton, if he could go to Carolina, I would love that landing spot for him, just based on the availabilities. I wouldn't like Chicago because A, I'm still a Viking fan, and B, it's just Chicago, man. Like, it's Chicago. Allen Robinson's going to be out the door as soon as he can. Probably a tag and trade situation with him. But I would love to see Deshaun Watson with all the talent in Carolina in that offense. So the goal today, like, I've been wanting to get ready for the offseason. And then this week happened and I wasn't able to do like all the preparation stuff I wanted to do with editing players, editing contracts. So I just told Blackjack I'd wait a week on the class. We'll do it next week and not to worry about it right now. I just wanted to get back to, you know, getting some Let's Play content on the second channel and just chill out today, not rush to get to the off season. Want to do it right. And I wanted to hang out with all of you today, even if I'm not doing the off season yet. Thank you for all the super chats that are rolling in here. Would I rather face 5 more years of Rodgers in Green Bay or 15 of Watson? I'll take the 5 of Rodgers. Alright, I got some super chats to catch up on here. Thank you for all those. If it's any consolation, Kane, it was negative 50 in Minnesota recently, so arguably you still escaped. I haven't experienced below 0 here. For me, it got down to 3 or 4 degrees. The coldest night was like Monday or Tuesday. Like, you know, in a pandemic, we don't know what day it is. Well, when you're in a pandemic snowpocalypse, you really don't even know what day it is. So, whatever day it was, there were 2 days in a row, it got down to like -4 at night. The first one was where I lost my power for the longest stretch, and I woke up at 6 in the morning, and it was like 55 degrees inside. And I'm like, all right, something's wrong here. And then power kicked on a bit later, and I discovered I had no hot water. and then power on and off the rest of the week until Thursday, Friday-ish. For me, that was my experience. A lot of people lost power that night and did not regain it for days. And maybe some are still without power. My thumbnail says Madden 21 update test. Oh, I never updated the thumbnail. Sorry, I guess I'm not totally thinking straight today. I made a thumbnail too, which it's a shame that I didn't update that. Thank you. Let me get that change. And I saw the hundo bomb from Jacob. Thank you for that. I'll catch up on super chats and everything. Excited to hang out with all of you for a couple hours and then get us a step closer to the actual off season. I'm trying to figure out how to edit the thumbnail while live. Oh, there we go. I like that thumbnail I made for Derrick Henry. Nope, I got a different one. Thank you. Glad you're not a popsicle. So am I. How about that Urban Meyer to Jacksonville prediction I made on your last live stream? Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. You know, when a big college coach goes to the NFL, I think there are always high expectations, but the transition isn't so seamless, and it's a different dynamic handling, you know, professionals and, you know, grown adults compared to college kids. Different dynamic, and a lot of coaches haven't handled that transition very well. Like, who are some of the coaches that come to mind when you think about, like, very successful pro in college? Like, I know, like, Ohio State fans especially will laugh, but Jim Harbaugh had pro success and some college success, but, you know, winning 70% of your games or 65 in the NFL is a good thing. In college, it's trash. If you lose, you know, 3 games, you're horrible. So maybe Michigan isn't considered a success with Harbaugh. Jimmy Johnson, that's a long time ago. Pete Carroll, that took, you know, he had some failures along the way. That was not a smooth path for Pete Carroll. And Chip Kelly, you know, his pro time was very hit or miss. Bill O'Brien, I mean, a year ago that might hold up. As a fellow Texas native, I'm glad that you're okay. Sorry the cold followed you from Minnesota. Yeah, I was, I honestly thought I would never deal with this weather again. Like, I thought there's no way in Texas it'll happen. I knew that, you know, there have been times where it's gotten cold and everything, but I just never thought this would happen. Where it's a week of, like, below freezing weather. I didn't even get a ton of snow, like 3 inches or whatever. But the cold, it's always the cold. It's not the snow. It's never the snow, it's the cold. The cold is the worst. So I guess snow can happen here. Oh well. There's only a couple parts of the country where I'd be like 100% safe, and that's like Southern California and like Southern Florida. So all you in Miami this week, I was a little jealous of you. Have you ever thought of doing fan names for the draft? Not really, just because that would really exclude a lot of people, and I just like giving Blackjack creative control, and he can just create whatever he wants, and the classes end up being very high quality. It will never ever snow in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, there's a couple more places maybe that are out there. Come to Spain. I've been going to the beach this whole winter. I can deal with that. Hope you're doing okay with all this crazy weather. Stay safe. P.S. I know you're a Viking fan and think Jefferson should have won, but I can't wait to watch Offensive Rookie of the Year Justin Herbert next year. You're right. I do think that Jefferson should have been Rookie of the Year because I think that he made his case for being a top 10 receiver very quickly. But, you know, a quarterback who puts together that kind of year is usually not going to lose. And Herbert was really good. I don't think this is why Herbert won Rookie of the Year, but this is a dynamic, I think, with his perception around just like the fan environment of the game. Is that people were low on Herbert coming in, I'd say, relatively speaking, and then he exceeded expectations so much. I feel like that's like a little bit of the hype. Maybe not why he won the award, because he was legit this year. He was very good. I do think Jefferson should have been Rookie of the Year, though. Although, can I really be blamed for the weather this year? Because I moved in 2019. I feel like somebody who moved more recently should get the blame. Like, can't pin this one on me. Drop a Texans video today? I will be. I will be. Texans video will be rendering as soon as I'm done with this stream. It was very good to get to create some stuff today. I didn't even like go in my office for like 5 days because one, I didn't have power very reliably, and then when we had it, they wanted us to conserve. And if you think my setup conserves energy, whew, got a lot of stuff in here, so I wasn't even in here all week. I was just trying to make food whenever I had power, and then I was charging up my Swish and playing Smash Bros. Pretty much. Okay, change up the music. I'm trying to find more. I get like really tied to certain tracks here and there. This one especially, Subway Dreams. I've had this one since September. I thought it was like only a couple months. Oops. I think I need some new material. Who's my main in Smash? So I was always a Kirby main. Trying to branch out, and I've been playing most of World of Light right now with Link. Because I just beat Zelda Breath of the Wild, so I'm like, I'll just play as Link. And I'm starting to get really comfortable with him. I also am a big fan of Piranha Plant from DLC. This is not the off season, no. That's going to be next weekend. Things got pushed back again. Hey, King, keep up the good work. And how about Carson Wentz to the Colts? Yes, the reuniting with Frank Reich. This is going to be interesting now. If, like, we get back to the good Carson Wentz... Like, it's going to show how important Frank Reich was to what went well in 2017 with Philadelphia. But Peterson's already gone, so it's not like that knowledge is going to be put to use. Like, he's already been fired. You know, I was pretty high on Carson Wentz for a little while the last couple of years. Things definitely looked broken for him this year, so a reset obviously makes sense. And he'll be in a good organization with a lot of good talent. So if it can't work here, then maybe it was a 1 or 2 year wonder. Oh, never forget Papa Yiannopoulos. Oh yes, the Raiders franchise. Never forget him. Glad you are safe. This proves that renewable energy isn't the best. I don't know anything about that. They just need to figure out how to make sure any equipment they have doesn't go down just because it's going to be cold for a few days. Can we expect MLB 21 coming to the channel? I'm really excited to play MLB again. It feels like it's been a while because it has, and I'm excited for real baseball. I'm excited for the show. I'm ready for baseball season big time. Especially after this week. I mean, I don't like the cold. I cannot stand the cold at all. That is why I moved to Texas. And I still got cold. I was under a boil water advisory and I still am. So, but I can handle that. Boiling some water is not a huge problem. As long as I got, you know, heat and running water and everything, I'll deal with the boil water notice. Have you on in the background? Broncos? Have you on in the background while I edit my own videos. It's good to see you again. Hope all is well. And as someone from Maryland, I cannot stand the cold either. Thank you, B-Ron. I started when I was making YouTube videos closer to 10 years ago. That's when I started getting into like TV shows, and I was knocking out seasons of Friday Night Lights, Prison Break, Psych, and doing so much gameplay and editing. I could go for hours. And did. Glad to be your background noise. It's an honor. I have looked a little bit into NCAA revamped, but I probably won't do anything serious with it unless I do another NCAA series. The fan-controlled football, I saw a few of the highlights, but I didn't watch any of the games live. I don't know a lot about that league. Saw a flashing green light. Here's my wallet. Thank you, Eric. Where in Texas are you? Pretty much in the dead center of the state. I am landlocked, basically. I haven't left the state of Texas since I got here. I think Wentz fails in Indy. He has bad mechanics. Yeah, mechanics can be tough to fix. You know, it's easier said than done. But I think it goes beyond mechanics. I think there's more that has to be done there. But if anybody can fix it, it's Frank Reich. Where is Will Fuller going? As long as it's not Green Bay or anywhere in the NFC North, then I'm okay with where he ends up. You know, when you think about who's got money and who could make a move, I mean, you could consider even a move in division to somewhere like Jacksonville. I think the Colts even have some money, but I don't see them doing that. I don't know exactly because of the way the cap works this year. How are, like, I would call Will Fuller like a prized free agent. He's going to get a very big contract. Possibly one that resets the market. I mean, a lot of deals do. But in this year with a drop in salary cap, teams are going to be very frugal, I imagine. I don't know what players are going to do this year. Like, do you take a one-year deal, try to cash in next year, hope the cap is back up to normal? When am I going to get a college football team to root for? I root for Minnesota. I root for Minnesota, but I didn't watch much this year. I just didn't have time with the way they were playing at the beginning of the year. Kane, they gave my Orioles a 0% chance of the playoffs. I know. 0. Not even a 0.01. At the very least, they should be a lot more entertaining. Can I see Watson ending up in Chicago? I don't personally, because the strength of the Bears is their defense, and I'm not sure they're going to get Watson with just picks. Do they want to give up any part of their defense in a trade? Houston needs some defense. I just think that Carolina has more valuable picks to give. They pick higher this year, so their first round pick is a lot more valuable than Chicago's. And I think also if they wanted to trade Teddy Bridgewater to become the new bridge quarterback in Houston, that would make some sense. Me, myself, and iStudio. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that very much. And thank you, CTF Connor. Love you, Kane. Appreciate it. What of PJ Walker then? Still back up until further notice. I mean, he got to play really one main game this year. I think he started that game. I know he had 2 end zone interceptions. He made some big plays. Like, he's still going to stick around and be a backup somewhere, maybe even still in Carolina. But I don't think we've seen enough yet in the NFL for him to push for a starting role. And the thing, too, is a player like him really needs a preseason to compete. If there is no preseason and it's all training camp, like, it's hard for a player like him as a backup to rise on the depth chart any further. What's the coolest currency you've been donated in stream? There have been some that I haven't been able to recognize just based on like the acronym. I don't know what the coolest currency would be, but I always think it's cool when there's something beyond the USD or the Canadian dollar. If I scroll through all the recent ones, it's been all that. There's a Euro one. What sliders do I use? They are linked down below in the description. And all I would say is raise the CPU run blocking a little bit, and that's what I use. I don't have the new Blackjack draft class yet. I told him to keep it and do whatever he has to do, so he's doing some more shuffling and everything, and then he'll have it to me this week. Kane, do I play Halo? Any hope for Halo Infinite? I don't anymore. I really enjoyed Halo 3. I thought Halo 4 was really fun when it came out, but the series has lost some luster, obviously, and I don't know what's going on with Infinite. You know, Microsoft just is in a place right now where they're not even competing as far as like the console war goes. They're just going to expand on their cloud platform. They're going to make it very easy to play on PC or Xbox. They're kind of just going for trying to go more just consumer friendly with Game Pass and everything rather than give the hard hitting titles. So honestly, I don't have a lot of hope that Halo just blows the door off of everything and people are buying Xboxes for the cheapest entry point to playing Halo and everything. I just don't see it happening. I hope it does. I think that's good to have that competition. I want to see like Microsoft do well and Sony at the same time, so they're constantly trading punches. I don't want Sony to run away with it at all. Good to see you, Franz from Finland. What is my thought on Big Ben and the Steelers? They got to get serious about a quarterback of the future, I think. I think Ben can still maybe play well for a little bit longer, but I would probably swap out Rudolph for somebody else who maybe has a bit more starting upside. How did I get my auto subs to work? Honestly, on Madden 21, all I did was just try to edit them, and all of a sudden they were working. Just did it in franchise at the coach menu here. So if this was Madden 21, you'd just be doing the same thing. And go into the auto sub menu, and I was getting running back subs no problem. I didn't do anything special. Why am I not hitting the right thing? Yeah, so I just made it like 83 out or 87 out. Maybe it was like 83 out, 87 in or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the value is. But yeah, what I was wanting to do, and I talked about this in the recap video, is I wanted to do some editing to the players to try and fix some of the overall issues in the league and to make the CPU teams a bit stronger after auto subs were way too low for too long. So you see, for instance, we only have a few quarterbacks that are even in the 90s right now, and most of them are just good players from the beginning of the series. So we get down to this tier, and now you get Heikkinen, Warwick, Kessler, Raymond, but there's no quarterback drafted in this series that is in the 90s. And so I wanted to take a look at doing some rating changes and maybe taking a look at like awards and stats and making those changes based on what happened there. So for instance, you had Taquan Layton here, just won the MVP in the series and has put together 2 really good seasons with Atlanta. So I don't think just like a +2 boost makes sense. I think that what makes sense is like editing Layton to be more like in the 91 range, becoming the best quarterback from any of the draft classes based on what he's achieved. So I guess I wanted some feedback on what you think about doing these rating adjustments only for CPU teams, just to help make up for the fact that auto subs haven't done enough. I can't even think straight today. XP sliders have not done enough. Teams don't have enough high rated talent, and I want to fix the league a little bit. Wisconsin citizen here and a big Packer fan. My apartment is usually 45 to 55 degrees in the winter and I hate it. Wouldn't that be considered warm to a Packer fan? And is it that out of necessity? That's pretty cold. I don't know our schedule for this coming year. I'm not sure what the rotation is for the out of conference yet. If it makes sense, go ahead. That's kind of what my thought is. If I can make sense of it, then I'll just do it. Yes, I do need this to be harder, Spencer. I want the series to be challenging and realistic, and I've got to make up for the XP sliders. Long-time fan, but Bears or Packers? Like, who would I cheer for? Bears, and they usually let me down. They got to beat the Packers more often. I feel like I've seen the Bears beat the Packers about as much as I've seen the Lions beat the Packers. Who is the biggest threat to the Bucks? I still think that Green Bay is in the NFC until further notice. Can you believe the Bucks got to play their last 2 playoff games against backup left tackles replacing good starters? Like, when the Super Bowl was coming up and I was thinking about what I expected, you know, I never expected the Chiefs to be held without a touchdown, but I was like, all right, this offensive line situation is going to cause some problems. How severe are they? And you had Mahomes just playing, you know, it was like 6 versus 11 out there, and Mahomes was trying to carry the weight of Kansas City on his back in that game. The 49ers could be a big threat, Jaden, I think, if they got like Deshaun Watson. Like, their defense is exceptional. Depending on if they lose any key players this year, I think Sherman's contract's up, and there might be a couple more players. I think that if they had Watson, though, they'd be pretty scary. Yeah, some of those throws were unbelievable. You know, like a few years ago when Rodgers was throwing those Hail Marys and he was, you know, having kind of his peak play, I'm like, there's no way I ever see a quarterback do this stuff again. And then just a couple of years later, here comes Patrick Mahomes raising the bar as far as like ridiculous things that shouldn't be possible with a football. Do I think the Rams have a shot? I do. I mean, I do think Stafford is a sizable upgrade over Goff. Their defense is obviously really good, and I think that Stafford is going to really open up the offense a bit more. Every time I watch the Rams, it just feels like an offense that has a lot of style but no substance. It's just like a bunch of jet sweeps and all this stuff to like get the defense, you know, to respect play action and everything. And I just never felt like Goff was able to play at like that extraordinary level for very long. Like, if I think back to the game against the Vikings a couple years ago, he was great in that game. And the beginning of that season, he was doing things I never thought he could do. because I've never really been a Goff guy, but I feel like Stafford's gonna do pretty well. And I think they got something with Cam Akers by the end of the year, and they were starting to run the ball a lot better. Exactly. I think the Rams call like the same 5 plays. That's what it feels like. And a lot of them work, you know. A lot of these play action heavy offenses, they're not, you know, calling 1,000 different plays or anything. It's kind of about the relationship between the run, pass, and play action. They're running a lot of the same concepts, but it just felt very repetitive in the Rams case. Thank you, Will. I appreciate that. What should the Broncos do this offseason? Should they target quarterback? Probably. I kind of expected a bit more out of Locke this year than we saw. But I want to see where they pick. Because I feel like they're in that tough spot where they're not getting the first quarterback, the second quarterback, maybe even the third. And so at that point, what do? They pick 9th. That's rough. You could move up. You know, after Lawrence, either Fields, Zach Wilson will go, Trey Lance. I'm very interested in where Lance goes because of the fact he went to North Dakota State, only played like a season. I think he's going to go super early, though. I mean, when teams identify a quarterback with potential, they don't just wait around because he doesn't have experience or whatever. I mean, we've seen Trubisky get drafted high, number 1 quarterback after like a year of starting. It happens over and over and over again. Quarterbacks with like 1 solid year will go very high. So the off season is going to be next weekend. This is just a chill franchise stream. I've just been able to start getting back into making content here today, and I'm not ready to get to the off season yet. Don't have the draft class. I need to do a draft show with all of you guys this week and do some editing here in the league. Do I think San Francisco will draft a quarterback? I don't. I just think that they're picking... Oh, they're picking at 12. That's right. But even then, I mean, 4 quarterbacks could be off the board by then. I think they're more a team looking for a veteran, too, because their roster is more in a win-now situation. And trying to win now with a rookie, it takes time. How is Texas? I thought you tried to leave the snow. I attempted. It followed me. But I still really like Texas. And now the snow is almost gone. Any thoughts on EA announcing a new NCAA in development? Not any major thoughts because we're not close to getting it. And we don't know what they're trying to do with it. Because at this point, NCAA 14, very old game. So it's probably going to be a Madden reskin. And they're going to have to build everything from scratch again. That's what I think will have to happen. So, do they put the resources into doing Dynasty the right way? Into Road to Glory the right way? Or is it just about Ultimate Team? I'm hoping that because it's also a football game, they just don't need to do like heavy Ultimate Team on 2 football games and like compete with themselves, but they might just do that anyway. And hopefully it goes into a good, strong Dynasty experience. Because, I mean, at its peak, I mean, NCAA was so much fun. And then imagine, like, what could have happened the last almost 8 years with more revision, more refinement. Like the game we could have had 5 years ago, let alone now. I did see that Anthony Edwards dunk. That was disgusting. That was awesome. Too bad the Timberwolves lost that game. Calspo docuseries going pretty well. I have all the gameplay and everything. Now it's all about editing and putting it together. I have the entire season played out. I've simmed to the off season, so I know who declared, who didn't. I know everything about this year. And now it's going to be about putting it together. Favorite college team is Minnesota. I didn't know the Timberwolves could win a game. Well, they didn't win that game, and they certainly make it look very difficult. What's the one free agent you want the Vikings to sign? In a more realistic sense, just based on salary and maybe making it fit, maybe somebody like Michael Davis or just like a good corner. But they're probably going to stick with all their young corners now. I like Dantzler. He really came around a lot last year. Or Brandon Scherf would be like, you know, if I can have my pick, I'd love to have Brandon Scherf. I'd just like to have guard fixed and not think about it. Like, it's almost more fun thinking about getting a new quarterback than just like guard being a problem every year. How's my day going? Pretty good. Pretty good today. Definitely happy to have the warmer weather back and everything, and being able to make some content again and hang out with all of you. Will I go through every team and just look for players, or am I going to the players I know? I would be going to all the teams and just kind of paying attention to top performers and everything. Like, there's two kind of aspects to re-rating here, and that's to look at position depth throughout the league. So like, okay, here's all these quarterbacks in the 90s, the 80s, clustered here in the mid 80s. Very few breaking out to the top tier, and all the ones in the 90s are now in their 30s. So that's part of it, is like, do I need to make sure we have a certain number, like 90 overall quarterbacks? But as far as like how I want to affect these individual players, like, I want to look at what they accomplished throughout their career, and more so look at like, okay, based on this, now they should be rated accordingly. So if we have Taquan Layton here coming off an MVP season, 35 touchdowns plus, tearing it up in Atlanta, he shouldn't be an 86. You know? I think he should be in the 90s now. Let me make a new file quick. This will be my new file I go with moving forward. I don't know why that bug exists there. It's February 20th. For the most part, I like them to just naturally have whatever happens with the XP sliders, and that's what I will be doing. But for so many years, we had low XP sliders, and so they missed chances during the best years to gain development. So I'm just trying to kind of fix that. Like, I love the development from this last year for the rookies. I went through it in the recap video. To see a player like Marquise Cortez go from 71 all the way up to 82 because he was Rookie of the Year, because he was a Pro Bowler and racked up all these numbers, I thought was great. But an 11-point jump there would not have been possible under the old XP sliders. So it's kind of making up for that and trying to get the series a bit better for the future years. I should start watching the Premier League. I want to get into watching some more stuff. I'm really interested in getting more into watching PGA and playing fantasy golf. I'm really waiting for baseball. I need something to bridge the gap for me. I could watch some NBA. I could. I like watching the playoffs. But I miss baseball. Hopefully I'm under 10 interceptions this season. Probably not gonna happen. Oh man. How is it that a Minnesotan like you doesn't watch hockey? I just never, like, nobody like influenced me to really get into hockey, and I gravitated toward football and baseball, and that's just what I focused on. I think if I were to get into it, it'd have to be like I'd get into the NHL game and then get a better understanding there, and then maybe watch real hockey a bit more often. Hey Kane, bet that cold wave was nothing to you, fellow Midwesterner. Glad to see you're safe. Boiler up. Yeah, the cold, I mean, it was familiar, but I mean, living in Texas now for almost a year and a half, my cold tolerance was basically shot. When it normally just gets down to like 30 or 40, I'm not handling it too well. So when it got down to 6, that was tough. And then as it bounced back to 30, I'm like, oh, I can handle this. I just never thought I'd experience that again. Like, when the polar vortex hit, I think 2018 or 2019, the coldest I had to deal with was like -40 or -50. It was so bad that week that getting up to 0 degrees a little bit later felt like relief. And I just remember how ridiculous that felt when I really thought about it. How it was so much colder than 0 that 0 felt fine. And that's kind of what this week was. You know, the single digits were awful, so 30 felt fine. Too bad I didn't keep my shovel. I was so happy to get rid of that thing. And this week I wish I had it. Oh yeah, definitely, Gavin. If I increase ratings, I plan on increasing their contracts as well. Any chance of an MLB 20 created team franchise? In 21? Possibly. I'd love to see. I think they have like a new stadium creator. Did I read that correctly? Custom stadiums? Who knows? Even 10 degrees isn't that bad if there's no wind. Ugh. 10 degrees? Is the sun at least out? Honestly, I don't like anything under 60. And even that, I don't like the 60s that much. If there's 0 wind and the sun's out, I like it. But to me, like, I want 80s. 80s to me are perfect. I want to recreate the Kingdome. Oh, I want to create the Metrodome. Can I put that big milk jug in the right field corner? Once you've experienced 120, 100 is cool. Yeah, I've never had to like experience it on that high end. The highest I've dealt with so far in Texas is like 106. And I would much rather deal with that than anything cold. And by cold to me, I mean like under 60. I'd just rather it be 100 degrees out. I could take that. You think I want to wear a sweatshirt? I don't. I want to wear shorts and a t-shirt every day of my life. There are only a couple places I can do that. It's 80 right now in Arizona. That sounds great. I think here it's like 50 something, which now will feel awesome. Yep, Texans episode today for sure. All right, so I do want to edit Taquan Layton. And I'm just trying to think of how I want to handle all the re-rating. I think definitely, so like if I even edit throw on the run, throw under pressure, is that a huge thing? Let's just do it. So we're going to raise those ratings there. And then we're going to boost his awareness as well. I want to get him into the 90s. And yeah, if you had drafted him in a series, he has some receiver skills too. How would one go about becoming a channel member? Nate, if you would want to become a channel member, there is the join button next to subscribe. And that is $4.99 a month. And it helps support the channel. Appreciate you asking. Let's see. I think right now it'd be at 89. So 92 awareness gets us to 90 overall. And then if we boost his contract, let's see, it's at 60.65. So if we just increase it by like 10%, then we'll do like 6 on salary, 6 on signing bonus. And this will also cause the CPU teams to have to make some moves with their cap. And free agency is going to be more exciting. So I just think this is good overall for the series, to have kind of this influx of talent and to have the contracts reflect that as well. I forgot what value that was at to start, but that seems pretty good. Hey, Nate, thank you for becoming a new member on the channel. I appreciate that very much. So there, Taquan Layton becomes a 90, and his cap numbers are now like that. I will be editing contracts for players on our team. I will not make any of our players higher rated though. None of them. I'm not changing any releases or any of the animations or whatever, just ratings and contracts. Who are my top 3 receivers of all time? It's easy to go with Jerry Rice and Randy Moss, but I'm not sure who my number 3 would be. After Rice and Moss, I think there are a lot of options. Is Madden on PC? 19, 20, and 21 are on PC, Alexander. Do the numbers show months we have been members? Yes. But there's not an option for me to put one for like every month, so it's like 0, 1, 2, 6, 12 months, 2 years is how they do it. I see a couple Terrell Owens. I wish I could remember T.O. with the 49ers more. But a lot of that was before I started watching. Not the entire time, but I certainly remember his post-49er days better. He was drafted 96. I started watching in the 2000 season. Who remembers T.O. with the Allen Wranglers? I remember seeing those highlights. That indoor football league. Megatron, Marvin Harrison. Yeah, Marvin Harrison was like a cheat code when I was younger. Like, him and Peyton couldn't be stopped. I'm glad Megatron made it to the Hall of Fame too. Like, I know that he had a shorter career, but it's like, I don't think that when you can play at a high level for as long as he did, and the way he, transcended the league at that spot, I don't think you need to just have longevity. I think longevity ends up being one of the most overrated factors to getting into the Hall of Fame. I more so just care about what was the peak of your career like, and how long were you at your peak, and how much of a difference did you make at your peak. So like, if you just, tack on 8 average years after that, I don't really care that much. I want to know about the best of your best. But how much should longevity matter? Because it shouldn't be 0% of the equation. Based on the way players have made the Hall of Fame in the past, I do think Frank Gore makes it. And the peak of his career was very good. It was a step below, like Adrian Peterson and Barry Sanders and all those other running backs. Will Matt McNair be in the NFL? Whenever he declares. But he's pretty early in his career still. Like, I feel like Gore should be in. Not based on anything that's happened in the last, 6 years. But, he was a very good player for a very long time. Longevity, though, is going to have a big impact on his Hall of Fame case, I think. Yeah, Fitzgerald's peak was for a really long time. He's no doubt a Hall of Famer to me. I think he has a very easy case. It's so weird, I've watched players' entire careers and now they're in the Hall of Fame, like Calvin Johnson. Even weirder is, Antoine Winfield was playing as of, 8 years ago, and now his son is a Super Bowl champion. Steve Smith, yeah. Yeah. I'd say Steve Smith's Hall of Famer easily. I did play NFL Street back in the PS2 days. I miss having games like that. I still think it's the strangest thing that the Blitz and Street games just kind of died out. I feel like that's been a huge missed opportunity for the last 10 plus years in this genre. I don't think it's that we don't want to play them. I think it's that they were usually half-baked. Was there ever a time, I didn't play all the games, but none of those Street or Blitz games, I feel, were given true AAA treatment. They were all kind of bare bones with a lackluster season mode. They were never given the full-fledged focus. They were all made like they were going to be sold for $30, Does that make sense? They just never got the treatment of the really, the Madden, the 2K, NBA Live. NBA Live used to be a big thing. People growing up now, what's NBA Live? Is that Pong? What did I think of Backbreaker? Physics engine in there was awesome. I really wish that game had a second iteration. It's never right on the first go, but they did a lot of things pretty well in that game. All right, so we've edited Taquan Layton to become a 90 overall. If we look at Jesse Heikkinen at 88 overall, here's what he's done. I think that 88's about right. I'm not sure Heikkinen needs an increase, considering he hasn't really had playoff success. He has one Pro Bowl appearance, Rookie of the Year. I just think that he's more of like a Matt Stafford caliber quarterback. He's pretty good. He's definitely a starting quarterback, but he's not top 5. The Saints quarterback in this franchise would be Justin Colbert. So in the NFL GOAT debate, who do you got? As much of a Pats fan as I am, TB12 is only 4th on my list behind Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, and Jim Brown in that order. Brady is the GOAT quarterback, but Rice's records are uncatchable. Yeah, I don't think that there's really an argument against Jerry Rice with all he's accomplished. Obviously, Brady and all the rings and playing quarterback, like, it's hard to compare at different positions. But yeah, Rice's records are basically uncatchable. And it happened, you know, before this era. Growing up, I always thought of Jerry Rice as the best football player I ever played. And that wasn't because I watched him. It was just because that was kind of his reputation as I got into football, and I was just a sponge trying to absorb everything. That's just kind of what I gathered, that Rice was kind of the top of the top. We could also look at awards and go by that to see who maybe should be getting a boost here. Probably would be very useful as well to take a look at like the top offensive linemen and maybe consider even some dev upgrades, just because there's no way for them to increase their development. That's why I just made their XP gain really high. But development really separates, and it's hard to do it with just, you know, everybody being like normal dev for the most part. Are you more of a small or big Hall of Fame guy, especially with no one making into the MLB Hall of Fame this year? I find MLB too exclusive, so prefer the NFL way. Yeah, I think that the MLB Hall of Fame is just kind of being made less prestigious year by year. The story every year is just like, why are these people allowed to vote for the Hall of Fame when it's all just like personal agenda driven and everyone's just trying to like make a point with their voting, and it's just become the opposite of what it should be, which is, you know, celebrating the best to ever play the game. And I think that's a joke. Are any of these guys Hall of Famers in your mind? Antonio Brown, Julio, Chris Johnson, Rivers, Heath Miller, Anquan Bolden, and Andrew Whitworth. Julio for sure. Antonio Brown, probably. Yeah, he's accomplished a ton. Chris Johnson, I don't know, because his peak was very good. To me, I don't think Chris Johnson is a Hall of Famer. I think he's more of like a team Hall of Famer, you know, Tennessee Titans Hall of Famer. Rivers, I've been very iffy on that one because of the lack of playoff success. I kind of lean against Rivers. I'm not really arguing against most players' Hall of Fame cases because they, you know, some people value things differently. So I'm not really big on the Rivers in the Hall of Fame just because there's like no playoff success there. It's all regular season stuff. Heath Miller, I'm not really sure about his production, honestly. I'd have to check on his. Anquan Bolden, I really liked how he closed his career. His start was pretty good, too. I think Bolden is in, and Whitworth I think is in. You can always edit development for linemen based on Pro Bowls. That's a good idea. Definitely a good idea. Too bad. Well, I guess I could probably go through old videos on the recaps and figure it out from there. Can I check Jason Murray's stats? Got you, Nate. 55 touchdowns, 24 picks, 68% completion percentage, almost 1,000 career attempts. Normal dev, 77 overall. And a couple solid years. So what do you do in this case? Chad Johnson, yeah, I'd say he's a Hall of Famer. Eli Manning, Hall of Fame? He has the playoff success. I would be more against, like, if I had to choose, I'd probably say no to both Rivers and Eli. They're both probably going to get in. It always becomes this debate of, like, peak versus longevity, because Rivers was never the #1 quarterback in the NFL. He was never the #2 or the #3 guy ever, because he played at the same time as Peyton Manning, as Drew Brees, as Aaron Rodgers, as Tom Brady. He was never in that tier to me. Like, the way the voting seems to be going and the way people think about certain players, like, to me that would mean Matt Ryan's already a Hall of Famer, and Matt Stafford's not far behind if he closes out his career with some success. MLB Hall of Fame voting is dumb. Buck O'Neil was snubbed. Player for NNL segregated leagues, wasn't a great player but a great ambassador and segue for change. I'd have to look more into his situation, but I don't like the way MLB has been handling any of the Hall of Fame stuff recently. It seems that needs to be kind of overhauled, the process. Because if you think about, like, what should the Hall of Fame be about, I think it should be about, like, the best players, especially, you know, in their era, or players that brought about, like, serious, like, change and, like, their overall impact on the game. I think longevity comes into play, peak play. I don't think everybody sees, like, eye to eye on what makes a Hall of Famer, and that's why the voting ends up being so weird. And then you have things like baseball, where the whole steroid era has also, you know, some people will never vote for Barry Bonds, and I think Barry Bonds is easily a Hall of Famer, and I can't think of anybody growing up that was, like, a greater icon when he was on top of his game. The segregated leagues needs to be honored more? Absolutely. Absolutely, Pee-wee. That's a very important part of baseball's history. If longevity is a concern, do you think Patrick Willis is a Hall of Famer? I think Willis is a Hall of Famer because of how good his peak was, and it was long enough for me. Russell Wilson, a Hall of Famer? He'll end up there. I have no doubt. I don't think you have to win a Super Bowl to make it to the Hall of Fame or even play in a Super Bowl, but I do want to see some postseason success factored in. And if you don't have the postseason success, you need more than just volume stats to me. Being an above average player for 18 years or whatever it is, like, maybe that's a Hall of Famer to some. It's an established great career. Only time I gave the MLB Hall of Fame credit was when they put in Edgar Martinez. In my opinion, Barry Bonds should be in. Pete Rose needs to be in. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Oh yeah, Gronk's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's got a case for being the top tight end of all time. He'd have to be in. You think Luke Kuechly should be a Hall of Famer? I think so. I mean, when I think about players like Calvin Johnson, Patrick Willis, Luke Kuechly, who probably could have had a few more years, do I need 4 more years of pretty good play from any of those players to have their case cemented? Not really. No, because that's not what I'm going to remember them by. When they induct somebody like, you know, if they were to induct Luke Kuechly and the rest of his career, like say he played 5 more years at like a decent level, above average, when they induct him, would they talk about those years, or would they talk about the first 8 where he was an icon and so good? They talk about those years. So that's what I think about. Oh yeah, Antonio Gates easily. Cam Chancellor, not sure about him. AJ Green, yeah, definitely. Bobby Wagner, I think he's on that path. Jason Witten's going to get in, yeah. I would certainly rather have it be the NFL's way, though, where it seems like a lot of people are getting in. Maybe they weren't all the best at their positions, over what's happening in baseball. I think Richard Sherman's going to have a good case to getting in. I always looked at him as the leader of the Legion of Boom. Darius Slade, Joe Hayden. I still think I'd need to see more from those two. I think they're just really, really good players. Not Hall of Fame, though. Alright, let's get back to evaluating some of the stuff here in the league. I could answer about every single player. I think Chancellor's one of those Ring of Honor guys. Yeah. I think there's 2 tiers. It's like, you know, Hall of Famer, Ring of Honor, your name's in the stadium, maybe a jersey retirement. And those to me are all the guys who played like 8 to 10 years at a really high level with that team, primarily. Jordy Nelson, Packers Hall of Fame. I think I know the answer, but I got one for you guys. How about Marshawn Lynch? Not knowing where he ended up as far as like yardage and touchdowns off the top of my head, I have to think of Beast Mode as a Hall of Famer. Steve Tasker or Matthew Slater? Can we talk about longevity when it comes to special teams, though? That's one of those... That's an interesting one. Looks like most would say yes to Beast Mode. Something like special teams, to me, that's where longevity probably should be a thing, because how else do you separate yourself? Like, check Jason Sanders the last couple of years. That's, like, really, really good kicking numbers, and he got a really big extension just the other day. But what really separates the best specialists is how long you can do it. I don't think that's the case for every position. I think that at, like, running back, if you are on top of the league for 8 years, you've made your case. But if you're a kicker, to separate yourself, I think you need a decade plus of just top-notch kicking. Winning some Super Bowls helps in the case of like Adam Vinatieri. I would 100% say Devin Hester is a special teams Hall of Famer. If he can't get in, then it's impossible for a special teams player. because he is, you know, the best punt returner of all time. The Vikings helped him make his Hall of Fame case. Only seen that happen a million times. But yeah, if Hester doesn't make the Hall of Fame, that's a problem. There needs to be a path in for those other positions like fullback and kick returner. It has to be possible. Advice for an aspiring franchise content creator. Josh, I would say, you know, a version of my advice over all the years has been to really, no matter the size of your community, whether it's, you know, a couple people, 10 people, 100, listen to them as far as constructive criticism goes, and definitely try to get their feedback and incorporate that into what you're doing, and realize at the same time that, you know, your first video is not going to be great. It's not going to be what you want. It's going to be something you have to grind to figure out how you're going to set up your content and everything, and you've got to be willing to consistently improve and find ways to make the content better, whether it be, you know, the format, the presentation, the editing, the commentary, just whatever you can do to get better. And just put yourself in the shoes of the viewer and think about, okay, what would engage me? How would I be engaged in whatever story it is you're trying to tell in your content? Trying to think if there's anything more, but I mean, it's one of those things where you can't read a book on how to make content. You can get some good advice and some bad advice, but really it's, you need the knowledge to just improve, because it's going to be all iterations. It's something you have to practice and consistently improve at. And you have to, you know, definitely, I think communication with an audience these days is especially important. I think making them feel connected to the content and building up a community is really important these days. Yeah, unfortunately, it's just not one of those things that you can, just because you know, doesn't mean you know. Does that make sense? Through practice, you'll figure it out if you stick with it and you're focused on the right things. What team should I rebuild in Madden 21? You should rebuild the Saints with all their negative cap space fun. I know I haven't done much here in terms of gameplay, but it's been fun to hang out with all of you today. I appreciate that. I might not get much accomplished here other than talking and hanging out today, but that's good enough. I would say also, you know, you can watch other people's content and try to figure out, you know, not only what works for them, but why it works. If you can figure out the why and then apply it in your own way, that's really the whole key. Kane, who are some players who were in your franchises that made your Hall of Fame? I think Andy McKenzie and Nate Bell would be two of the main ones that come to mind. Obviously Boogie Turner, and we're just in the beginning of his story, really. Only 5 years in. There are so many over the years. Go through any series. Oh, what's going on, Stacks? How you doing? Good to see you pop in. Stacks Montana, everybody. Million sub icon of the 2K universe. Congrats on that, by the way. What about Matt Pierre? Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that career mode series I did kind of cemented that. That was a lot of fun. That was my favorite player-based series I've ever done. And I didn't really expect it to. Boogie Turner is just a legend for this series, but also Kalispell. Yep. For sure. I would even base it just off his pro career, but we have a few college years in there as well. Appreciate that, Stacks. I still remember the first time I saw one of your videos. I believe it was when you were submitting to SGU back in the day. I watched it at his house. Oh yeah, the Perry Cummings move. That's one of the most unique success stories I've ever had, and I just don't know if I can top it from the Browns series. For those of you that didn't follow that one, Perry Cummings was a wide receiver that I had drafted, kind of a mid-round prospect. And when I drafted him, I looked at his secondary ratings, and I saw like elusiveness, ball carrier vision, all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, he could probably fit a running back. He also has 98 or 99 speed. And so I moved him to running back, and that move got us over the hump in that Browns series to finally win a Super Bowl. So it's my best running back success story, and he became, you know, the best running back we had, obviously, in that series. And like watching those games too, he just does stuff no one else has done. Since Phillip Brooks, NCAA 12, way back. Way back. Road to Glory was a lot of fun. That's one of the things I really missed about NCAA, is that Road to Glory to me was the perfect player-based mode. Games were super fun. The seasons were perfect length too. You play 12 games plus a conference title plus a bowl. Depth chart rise. It just works so well in NCAA. It's never the same in NFL. Kane, what underrated players should be in the Hall of Fame in your opinion? I think guys like Fred Taylor should get Hall of Fame votes. Underrated players that should get in? Off the top of my head, nothing really comes to mind. A lot of the guys that I would think about aren't even eligible yet, and I'm not really sure what their case would be as far as what everybody else thinks. Like when I think about like Steve Smith, like I think he's a Hall of Famer, but we're a couple years away from his eligibility. So far though, like when the years come around that I think about who's a Hall of Famer, I tend to like the results I've seen in the NFL recently. I know this past cycle, Jared Allen was one of those players I wasn't sure about, because I think that at his peak, you know, he was awesome with the Vikings. Was that enough? I think it's borderline. I think he could get in eventually, but because his case isn't like rock solid, it might take the right circumstances and the right year for him to make it. Yes, I am doing some editing ratings, but I am more so just talking with everybody today than doing a lot of other stuff. Probably not the most entertaining watch, a lot more entertaining listen. Yeah, so let's look at some just some volume stats here and try to look for players that were drafted in this series. Yardage, we gotta go way down. Jesse Heikkinen. Then we get to Raymond with a 3-to-1 ratio here, touchdown to pick. Colbert, 179 to 61, 65%. Does Colbert have any awards in his career? He's just kind of a solid quarterback. Rookie of the Year, 1 Pro Bowl, which is basically Heikkinen's award list too. I've thought about doing a podcast before, Chris, but I think what I more so prefer is just coming on stream and just throwing whatever I got out there. I like the live environment because it creates more of a conversation. It's easier for me to talk that way. In my opinion, is if a player has made at least 3 Pro Bowls, they should be at least 90 overall. I don't know if I'll lock it in so rigidly like that, but I do want to find players that have like had that success and like, okay, they should probably be a little bit higher rated, and because XP sliders were so low, they kind of got screwed. Who does JJ Watt go to? My thought is it's either going to be the Packers or the Steelers. Either go home to Wisconsin to a good team that has a chance to do well in the postseason, or go to Pittsburgh, do the same thing, but with his brothers. If I were him, I wouldn't consider anybody else. 2 good teams, 2 good organizations, chance to win, play on good defense. Like, I wouldn't look any further. Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb? Lamb's rookie year was more fun to watch. Broncos offense was kind of a wreck though, so I still think Jeudy long term, possibly. I don't know. It's harder to split the difference between those two now. Cleveland would be cool too, but I just think the Packers and Steelers have more interesting cases if I put myself into his shoes. Doesn't want to play in his brother's shadow. I doubt he cares about that. I think he'd like love the chance to play with his brother on a good defense. Not a chance he'll get again. I mean, 1-year deal at least. That's true, Tommy. It created a cycle. A lot of the young players won't have a ton of awards because they didn't have any good progression to be good enough. That's what happens a lot in this series. You get Ezekiel Elliott running for 2,000 yards a year, and no one else is going to be coming close. So, best running back for the last 6 years. Offensive Player of the Year multiple times in that stretch. Would I ever do a 60-year NCAA Football 14 Dynasty? I doubt I'll get to 60. I played 14 every single game with Kalispell. I don't know what's going to happen with Von Miller, but I think that for players, like great players like Miller at this stage of their careers on a team like Denver, they usually go somewhere else. Like if he gets released, he's in his 30s. Now it's time to just maybe go somewhere else. He's won a ring. Maybe it's time to go chase another one somewhere else. If the Texans had to trade Watson, where should they trade him? Probably somewhere like Carolina. Get their first round pick very high. Have a chance to take your next quarterback. And the Panthers got some young talent I think that they could maybe put into a trade there. Like, what would a trade you think work? It would be like this year's first round pick, next year's first round pick, possibly the year after. In these mega deals, though, I think you should also be getting a couple players in return. Players who can help you right now. Not just draft picks, which are all just, potential. So like 2 first-round picks, maybe a second-round pick. Who'd be a player on Carolina that would make sense? I don't think they'd give up, CMC, DJ Moore, Jeremy Chin. I think those guys are kind of untouchable. Who's just like a solid player they could put into that deal? Samuel's deal's up, so that wouldn't work. He'd be a good option. Although, never mind. They have Cooks, maybe Fuller. They got to get somebody above 6 foot at receiver. Burns, no. Burns is untouchable. Brian Burns, I can't see them giving him up. But if Houston were to make the deal, would you give up Brian Burns for Deshaun Watson? You'd have to. You'd have to, but 2 firsts, a second, and Brian Burns could get it done. Shaq Thompson, they've already invested too much into Bernardrick McKinney and Zach Cunningham, so I don't think that would work. Dante Jackson, possibly. I just can't see Carolina agreeing to something that involves them trading away Brian Burns. I think Burns is going to be really, really good. Boston was already released. Yep. I don't think safety would change enough for Houston, though. They have Justin Reed, and they're good there. Do I think San Francisco will at least try? Probably. Because weren't they in on, like, Stafford? You know, maybe... I'm not saying they should, but they could afford to give up DJ Moore if it meant they keep Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel. And obviously CMC. That could work. Like, no matter what, you'd be doing something uncomfortable and trading a top player on the team. Should Vikings trade Cousins? They probably should, and they probably won't. How many sacks does Boogie have? I think it's like 88. High 80s somewhere. 3 firsts, Teddy Bridgewater a second, Mike Davis. I don't think you're getting a whole lot with Mike Davis in that deal. And a third. They got David Johnson. They got Duke Johnson. And I think they should keep Mike Davis. He was a capable backup this year. And I think that if they wanted to go forward and maybe give CMC a few chances to play wide receiver, like imagine if McCaffrey like got 10 to 12 carries a game like Kamara does, and then he lined up in the slot on occasion, and Mike Davis could play running back there with Rodney Smith. Like, you can take advantage of CMC's versatility if you have an average running back to allow him to do other things. Random Madden question. Do sliders impact Super Sim fast stats? They shouldn't. Not to my knowledge. Not that I've seen. Do you think after the injuries this year to CMC that he will get more of a Kamara workload? Because Kamara's never been a high volume carry guy. He averages like 10 to 12 a game. And I think when you're a receiving back, that's the sweet spot as far as carries go. If the Vikings traded Cousins, who would be a quarterback you'd want? Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, please. Would I be okay with the Vikings rebuilding? I mean, they kind of have to. I mean, eras open and close. The difference is, like, consider Seattle. They built things around Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom. Then the Legion of Boom left. Russell Wilson was still there, and because he's so good, they weren't a rebuilding team. They were rebuilding a defense. There's a difference. Kirk Cousins isn't good enough to make it so the Vikings can just rebuild the defense and, you know, not worry about it. He's a step below, maybe 2 steps below a guy like Russell Wilson. And that's why the Vikings finished 7-9. Because the defense was in complete rebuild mode, and the offense You know, started very slowly. The O-line isn't very good. They ended up at the end of the year having a good offense, but they had a lot of losses along the way. They couldn't win some of those key games, like the Cowboys game, the Colts game, the Seahawks game. So there you go. The Vikings are rebuilding. They just have 2 good players on offense still. That's honestly true. The Vikings are a rebuilding team. It's just rebuilding players surrounded by, Harrison Smith, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Like, there are some really good players on that team, and then a lot of rookies just trying to find their way. Opinion on JaMycal Hasty. I liked what I saw from him in San Francisco, and they have a good eye for running back talent. So pretty much anybody who's carried for them in the Kyle Shanahan era, I've liked. I don't feel like Lance is going to be there at 14. I feel like 4 quarterbacks are going top 10. Do I think the Vikings trade Harrison Smith? No. As far as safety goes, he's one of the most valuable because of how many roles he plays on defense and how impossible he'd be to replace. He can cover, blitz, hit. Some of those hits got him in trouble this year. He ain't getting away with big hits anymore. They're going to be flagged every time. Because some of the hits have legitimately been bad. You know, helmet to helmet, whatever. A lot of them have been, you know, like, rightfully penalized. But he'll never get away with any more big hits. He's got the reputation of a dirty hard hitter, I think. Do I think the Falcons should draft a quarterback in the first round? I wouldn't say yet. No. I don't. I think they got to get better on defense. Thoughts on DJ Wanham? I like him. Had a few splash plays. Had the big sack of Aaron Rodgers to win that game in Lambeau. I want to see more of him. I don't really have a top 5 list of quarterbacks yet. I have to watch them more in depth. Opinion on what the Patriots should do at quarterback. They're in a very weird spot. Right now with New England, what makes the most sense to me is to draft somebody high. As high as you can. Just time to bring in somebody new, somebody young, and go with it. Unless you think, you know, Jarrett Stidham is better than the 4th or 5th quarterback in the class this year. I wish things worked out differently with Cam. I think that the offense around him was very bad. Cam wasn't great this year. I liked how he started the season. I don't think that he was the biggest problem on that offense at all. And I think that the Cam Newton you saw this year, I think that however long he continues to play, that he will have multiple years better than this last one. And not just statistically. Like, obviously, they just didn't throw touchdowns. They didn't. At the start of the year, though, I'm like, oh, it's just, you know, Cam Newton. The Cam Newton we knew. Thought the Patriots were an interesting team in the beginning of the season. I don't think we'll see MVP Cam again, unfortunately. If the Panthers don't trade for Watson, who would they draft in the first round? They might have to move up, and it would probably be either Fields or Wilson, I would have to think. I recently rewatched the Twins franchise, and I was wondering if or when you might do another MLB or 2K franchise. When the show comes out, I'm really interested in playing that again. I miss playing the show. It was a lot of fun, and I really got comfortable making the content by like the end of the series, the last stretch, and I miss it. I don't know much about Kwity Paye. Tell me about him. I've seen his name pop up a ton recently. What team is Marcus Duhan on? He's bounced around a little bit. He might be on the Ravens right now. There you go. One Pro Bowl, led the league in receptions once. Solid second-round career. Who should the Vikings get in free agency? Should they trade older guys like Smith and Thielen, Cousins, and rebuild? I don't think they should trade Thielen or Harrison Smith. I think that they probably have to cut Barr or have him take a pay cut or something. They probably got to cut Rudolph. They're going to have to open up some caps somehow. And then they got to fix the offensive line first and foremost. And then maybe you look, if you can get a good offensive lineman or two, just a decent starter, then you can maybe look to even more defensive talent in the draft. And you can, I've seen like Christian Barmore as a target for them. I love that. They haven't had a 3-tech penetrator play at a really high level for them in a while, and I miss those days of Kevin Williams. So let's fire that up. You bring back Dantzler, Gladney. Hopefully they show more growth next year. I liked Dantzler's play by the end of the year. He was playing really well. You obviously get Daniil back, Michael Pierce. The Vikings defense can be a lot better next year. But how they manage the cap and everything is going to be really tricky because they may have to make some tough moves. One franchise I wish I could have continued longer than I did, probably the Jaguars. Because getting more of a fleshed out career for like Nate Bell would have been ideal. And I wasn't doing like long-term sims or anything then. Hoping the best from San Antonio. It was hell here. Hope you're doing all right. It was pretty rough for a lot of areas out here too. It definitely wasn't as bad for me as it was for a lot of people, but yeah, it was a tough week for everybody. Let's see Jayshon Warfield here, superstar, 87 overall. 27 years old. Two-time Pro Bowler. Twice over 1,000 yards. Do we think Warfield's 87 is enough, or should there be a boost? And there was a great point brought up earlier. Like, them not having the top XP keeps them from having those top seasons at times. So do you give a player like Warfield any kind of a boost? Even a 1 or 2 point? Do we boost Warfield? I'm thinking a minor boost, not a big one. Just like a 1 or 2 points. Just a little bit. And then a small contract bump. We can raise his awareness. I just got him to 89, just like that. 5 points to awareness did that. Weird. What I'm going to do with Warfield is give him 80 awareness. I'm going to bump up his ball carrier vision. $89 seems fair, +2. And then we'd boost his salary. That's a minor boost. Let's just add a couple $1 million. There. Let's get the cap hit at 7. He's right in the middle of a 6-year deal here at running back. Maybe we should boost it even more. Alright, that's enough. That's enough. Maybe I've gone a little overboard here, but we'll call it 7 for that cap hit. That's another idea, to bring some running backs down, the veterans. Change his helmet. It gets up to 8. Okay. That's decent. See, a lot of these guys, like good players like Warfield, they weren't able to become high-rated players, so they were in like the low to mid-80s. They're like 83 when they sign their contract. And that's what you're going to get. They get better for a little bit longer, easy to sign, pretty good player, don't replace. What the league needs is more high-rated players, more high contracts, because those create the tough situations where now your cap space is limited. Now you have to actually start that rookie safety because you can't just sign an 80 overall. It creates the whole cycle. I'm not really looking to knock down ratings for a lot of veterans. It would be an interesting concept, but more so I just want to raise it for players that deserve it right now. Oh yeah, Eddie Rosario in Cleveland. I like Rosario. I thought they should move on because they have some really good offensive line, outfield talent here that they got to get some playing time for. And he was the guy I thought that they could move on from. As long as they don't move on from Buxton. You got to keep Byron Buxton. I like Jorge Polanco a lot. Obviously like Kepler. But I really want to see more of Kirilloff now. I want them to start making room for Royce Lewis. I wonder what his whole role could look like now, because you consider Polanco and Andrelton Simmons both at short. You can always figure it out, but I like Luis Ariz a lot. Is that 30-year-old rookie receiver still on the Ravens? No, I think he's actually a free agent. Hey, Caroline, thank you for becoming a new member on the channel. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for the support. I think Javi Cortez Phillips is a free agent, though. Those high-rated veterans win all the awards, so the younger guys don't get that XP, and that's what we're trying to fix right now. He must be on a team. He's a 76. Where is Javi Cortez Phillips? I know that he might be a low-rated player on somebody's depth chart. On Seattle's, that's right. He is their number 4. Oh, wait. Alphabetically is their number 4. Statistically, he's their number 5. Yeah, Lewis has time. I just really want to see him get up to the show soon. I know a lot of people thought 2021 was his year for that, but we still only got to see Kirilloff in the playoffs. I thought we'd see him earlier. So they're taking their time with these guys in the system. And obviously, you know, the way MLB teams handle, what is the term? Your service time? I don't like how that's handled. And I don't think it should be 6 years until free agency. I think it should be 4. Although I guess with like arbitration, they still end up getting some big deals at a point. But to me, it always seemed very weird that MLB was set up so that like you develop guys until they're in their early mid-20s, and then they get their free agent deals when they're at their athletic prime's end. Like signing a guy long-term at 29 years old. I get that baseball players play till they're 80 years old, but this always seemed like a backwards deal to me. That's why I like seeing, you know, Tatis already get his deal, and Acuna get his deal. And sure, like, Acuna's deal doesn't look great compared to Tatis, but, I think, you know, cashing in early is good. Get the money. Are the Dodgers a lock to win the NL? It's going to be tough, but I think them against the Padres is going to be a lot of fun to watch with all that pitching talent they've acquired now and the way the offense developed last year. Like, the Padres were so much fun to watch. I would watch a lot of West Coast baseball last year because I play fantasy, so I care about what happens. And that's what's on, you know, at 9, 10 o'clock at night. So I was watching a lot of Giants games, Padres games, Rockies games, or the last of the night. So I like when the NL West is competitive and entertaining, because I'll be watching a lot of those games. Well, I think part of it is you look at Ozzy and Acuna, and I think if they had waited longer, you know, they would have had larger contracts. They signed early, still got major life-changing generational money guaranteed, but I think that's, you know, the trade-off there is, yeah, you signed a contract very, very early. If you had waited another year, it might be worth double, or it could be worth less if you did not continue that development. So I don't know. I'll probably never know what it's like to say no to a $100 million contract because I could get more. I'm not sure what that's like. Imagine being so good at something that $100 million was lowballing you. At anything, for any amount. Already 3 years in with Huggins, huh? Okay. I'm not looking to really do a lot of editing for these younger players. They just got a great year of the high XP sliders. They still have time. It's more so the guys who are like 27, 28, done developing, much like myself. And they just need that boost. I'm going to be 29 this year, and my awareness is going to go down, my speed's going to drop a little bit, my zone coverage is going to go down by like 7. I need to boost my development so I only lose like 3 points. Oh yeah, I was shocked when they pulled Snell in that game. There's something about, you know, playing to the analytics and the the percentages when you can get a big sample size. Like, I think analytics is great for the regular season because you get 162 games for the math to work in your favor. In the playoffs, I don't care what the probabilities are. You don't got enough shots. I'm not sure that the postseason and regular season are the same game. I don't think they are. By Madden standards, I retired 6 years ago. Yep. Once you're like 33, you basically have to quit your job. That's Madden logic. Unless you're a kicker. I'm late, but my Bucks are champs. Indeed, it was a fun Super Bowl to watch. I never thought that'd be the outcome. Never in a million years did I think the Chiefs would not score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Andy Reid off a bye. Patrick Mahomes just on the field. I knew it was going to be a Kelce game. I knew Travis Kelce was going to be the focal point. But just the way that front four dominated, you never expect to see a game like that in the Super Bowl. You can do that against Houston, against Minnesota, Jacksonville. But the injuries that KC sustained had their line playing like those teams. The drops didn't help Mahomes either. Yeah, for sure. I thought that after a while, though, they would do some more manufacturing with Hill. It seemed like that never became the focus. I think that's one thing that could have slowed down the rush. More motion with Hill, some screens and everything. It just seemed a little bit too much to drop back and scan and make a play. So Rafa Augustine now. Here's a player. By the way, receiver is just pretty low in general. So, #1 pick, Pro Bowler. He hasn't put up mega production, but he is literally the 6th best receiver at 89. Should we do a small boost with Rafa Augustine to 91? Yeah, that Super Bowl reminded me a lot of that Broncos-Seattle game. And that, to me, was also very entertaining because we go into every Super Bowl thinking it's going to be a really good game, especially when good offenses are involved. And when a defense can just destroy and dominate like that, maybe we got to stop being so surprised after all the times that we've seen it happen. Like, we saw it happen, the Broncos against the MVP Cam Panthers, Seattle against the Broncos after Peyton's big year, this last Super Bowl. The Patriots dominated defensively against the Rams. That basically was that outcome, just the Patriots didn't score. And the first Super Bowl I watched, New York. Baltimore, New York. 34-7, I think. Let's see, he's a deep threat. Let's up that deep route running a little bit. Maybe a little bit more to short. We're going to 92 here with Rafa. And we'll boost the contract a little bit here to like 47 salary, 48. And we'll increase this amount here too. Make him a real top paid receiver. So now Augustine's a 92. And then other receivers to maybe boost would be like Dallas Levine. I could boost Corville. I am looking to trade Corville, so he's not going to be on our team next year. Trill Diamond. Here's somebody that should get a boost. X Factor. 903 years, a lot of touchdowns, Pro Bowl. I think he's better than 85. And he's going to go pretty high now with that X Factor dev. I wonder when he got that. I have to ask Blackjack what he began as, but he got X Factor this year. He's an 86. What's up, awareness for him? Oh, I gotta get going here in a minute. That makes him an 89. Let's go 88. Once that slot says 88. Okay. We'll boost this salary. It's going to turn into a bargain here with this X Factor boosting him significantly. Is Dallas Levine untouchable? I'm going to edit him, but I'm probably not going to trade for him because I don't know if I could really justify why the Rams would move on from him. Alright, unfortunately I didn't get to a lot of editing today. I was just mostly talking with chat the entire time. I will do, obviously, a lot of this on my own, but some of the feedback today gave me an idea of what I should do the rest of the way here. That shoe thing is a glitch. It does that for some reason. But I gotta get some dinner now. I want to thank you all for all the well wishes and kind words this week. I'm doing good. And next week's gonna be the off season Saturday, channel member stream Sunday. All right, every month I do a channel member live stream for all the members, usually about an hour and a half long, where I have a stream very similar to this. It's a lot of just, you know, talking, hanging out, and talking about the channel a bit too. Give you some of the behind the scenes look on some stuff. But that is gonna do it for today. Texans video coming today. Texans video coming tomorrow. I'll see you all then. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Stay safe, stay warm, be kind to one another, and I will see you all next time. Draft show next week. Yep, that's going to happen. We'll find a day. And I'll be streaming some more this week, I imagine. Maybe even more of this. Who knows? See you guys next time.